I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it in, check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it in, check it out.
Hi, Dee Hankins here with announcements for the week of October 22nd, 2020. So we have the 10th annual Candlelight Pumpkin Walk that is sponsored by the Cub Scouts. Is taking place this Saturday from 6:30 to 8, and it looks like that's at the community center. So it's that path behind the New Holstein Community Center. And so you bring non-perishable items for their food drive, and they donate that to the local food pantry. And the 4-H Club will be joining the Boy Scouts, or the Cub Scouts, in carving pumpkins and handing out goodie bags to the kids. So that is this Saturday, 6:30 to 8, meet at the community center there. And then another announcement that we had is the City of New Holstein is still offering COVID-19 Rapid Recovery Loan Program loans. So any business located in the City of New Holstein is eligible for up to $5,000, a zero interest loan for business purposes. Loans will be awarded to eligible applicants while the funds are available. So the city is making $100,000 available for this program from the existing revolving business loan program, not taxpayer money. It's money that was received from the federal government. So applications, need to be submitted to the city on Tuesdays before 4:30 to be considered for that week's review. And there's a whole bunch more information. You can contact Casey over at the City of New Holstein at 920-898-5766, and she can provide more information. So those are the two updates we have for this week, which I think are great. That's what's going on in the community. So thanks, and keep that info coming to nhplnews@gmail.com. Thank you.
Hi, I am here this week with Mark Sherry. Thank you so much for being here, Mark. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, of course. I'm excited because I see your name kind of all over, obviously, in the newspaper and for other organization reasons. And so I'm just excited to sit down with you because it's always you telling other people's stories, and I want to hear yours. So tell us a little bit about your role in the community.
Well, as you mentioned, Dee, I wear lots of different hats. I think the one a lot of people know me is, you're right, as editor of the Tri-County News. We formed the Tri-County News back in 2001 by merging three different newspapers, the New Holstein Reporter, the Kiel Record, and the Chilton Spirit. And I was appointed editor at that time, and I've been the editor ever since. So I'm the only editor the Tri-County News has ever had. But again, I also wear other hats in the community. I'm currently the president of the New Holstein Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm the secretary of the New Holstein Economic Development Corporation. I'm the chairman of the board of elders at Zion Lutheran Church. I'm the vice president of the New Holstein Optimist Club. And probably the organization I've been a member of the longest, as a matter of fact, is I'm a board member on the New Holstein Community Chest. And I believe I'm going on about 34 years with that organization. So
wow. So that's
I have a hard time saying no to anybody. So I just
it sounds like it. And we could also laud your investment in the community in that, because that's incredible to be part of all those organizations touching the community in different ways. So that's great. Thank you.
Thanks, you bet. Well, the community's been really good to me. We love it here, and I always have. And just want to give back. There's lots of other people who do that too.
Yeah. How'd you end up here?
Born and raised in Waukesha. Went to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee to get my bachelor's degree in journalism, and got that in May of '83. And I was getting married in July of '83. And I thought my wife would like it if I had a full-time job somewhere. So I said, I'm going to take the first newspaper job that comes along if I can find one. It was kind of a tough time for jobs back then. Yeah. And turns out that I saw an advertisement, I think, in the Milwaukee Journal for a newspaper job in Brillion, Wisconsin. Had no idea where that was, but applied, got interviewed, got hired, and took that job. And we were there for 2 years, and during that time got to know Dave and Sandy Cooley, who owned the Holstein Reporter at the time. A lot of folks will remember the Cooleys, and had a good relationship with them. And when they heard I was thinking of moving on, Sandy approached me and said, "Do you want to come work for us?" And so I thought about it. We thought about it, and I took that job, and been here ever since in the Holstein. I'm very glad we are, because it's just a great community.
Yeah, that's so great. I love that. I've spoken with a lot of people who were born and raised, and as somebody who is a transplant myself, it's always neat to kind of hear how somebody ended up here and how that evolved, really. An ad in a paper, and now you've been serving this community for over 30 years, and that's incredible.
Right. And I really consider Holstein my hometown now, and just a great community. And you're right. I've heard from a lot of people who've moved here from elsewhere who just love it. They love the place, and it seems like sometimes the longtime natives those are maybe the most critical of their community. I'm not in a bad way, but they just want it to be the best it can be. And then when a newcomer comes, they see all the good things, and it's great to hear that, because we always hear the other side too.
Right. It is fun to see both perspectives, for sure. So you've been here for a long time. You have to have a favorite, and so I'd ask you your favorite event or place to go in the community, thing to do.
I got several in both those categories. I think my favorite place is Kiwanis Park, especially back in the prairie and the woods. I've for a number of years, I've kind of called it one of our best kept secrets. I think people are starting to discover it a little more. I do like to walk. I don't walk as much as I should probably, but during one silver lining of the COVID is I have been walking more. I have more time to walk, and my destination is always to go back into the prairie and the woods. It's just beautiful back there. Luann Beekle and others have done just a beautiful job with that, and I would encourage anyone who hasn't been there, go back there. It's just beautiful. And then favorite events, I got a couple. For sure, the Fireman's Picnic, Fireman's Parade especially. Really missed it this year, but the parade, I just love setting my lawn chair outside our building on Wisconsin Avenue, and a little cooler of beverages next to me there, and I'm taking pictures, but I'm really relaxed doing it, and see so many people and you're just having fun with them as they pass by. And then the Holstein's Memorial Day program is just always very special. It's very simple, hasn't changed forever, but it's just kind of perfect, and in a great setting in the cemetery there, and usually the weather is nice, and in late May, and it's really one of my favorite events of the year.
That is one I've never attended, so I'm so excited that you mentioned it. Now I have a new bucket list item. And
let's hope we have one next May, yeah.
yeah. And I would say the Kiwanis Park, that was mentioned last week as well, so I do think that there's starting to be a heightened awareness of it. A silver lining of COVID is you're looking for spaces you can still be out of the house in, and I think that is such a gem in our community.
You can go to a lot of big cities. They don't have a park like that. And our whole park system overall, if you consider Optimist Park and Civic Park, I mean, we are really blessed and really have just a beautiful park system here.
So lucky. Yes, I agree. So thank you. Yeah. We always do a little pre-interview, and we were speaking about the newspaper. And funny enough, so I submit an article to you each week, and all of a sudden your email changed. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, we, it was in the newspaper, but I understand you forget things, or you didn't see things. People do. And about a year ago, our newspaper was sold. I had been an owner for more than 20 years, and then I was in the middle of a buyout process. And then in the middle of the buyout process, we were sold to a company by the name of O'Rourke Media Group. It's owned by a gentleman named Jim O'Rourke. He lives in Chicago. He's trying to build he believes in newspapers yet, and he believes in the information media. And we're much more than newspapers. I'll talk about that in a minute. But he's been building from scratch and acquiring small newspapers around the country. And a division within O'Rourke Media Group is Wisconsin Media Group, which Tri-County News and Tempo belong to. It's part of. We also we purchased the Ripon newspaper, so we own that. O'Rourke Media Group has newspapers in Vermont, Minnesota, Arizona. So we're kind of part of this bigger company. The good news is it hasn't really changed us a whole lot. Jim's a great guy to work for, and has kind of been hands off in a lot of ways in terms of just kind of letting us do our thing. So a lot of people won't notice the difference from last year to this year, and that's the way I wanted it, and we're very pleased that that's the way it is. And I still think, and Jim says he's a big believer yet in print media. We all know there's rumors and beliefs that the printed newspaper is going the way of the dodo bird, and I do believe that that's probably true for the daily newspapers. But I think weekly hometown newspapers like ours, it's almost apples and oranges. We're kind of a different animal. There's stuff in our newspaper that you can't get anywhere else, week in and week out.
I wholeheartedly agree. I would say we're similar. We share that, where people think libraries are sort of becoming obsolete, and the printed, because we carry the printed word, but we're evolving. And like you said, there's this niche that no one else is providing. And so I love that about the local paper.
And I'm sure you hear this almost daily, Dee, and so do I. There's a lot of people, and not just old people, but a lot of people who love the printed word and want to hold something in their hands as they read it. They're tired of looking at screens. They look at screens all day, or they don't want to deal with screens. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, 20 years ago, I would talk to classes at New Holstein High School, and I would tell them, I think the printed newspaper is going away too, but there's always going to be a need, hopefully, for information, good, reliable information in a community.
Yes.
And I think we need that more than ever. And whether it's on the printed newspaper or some device that we all have strapped to our arms or embedded in our arms, who knows what it's going to be in the future. But I think there's always going to be a place for people who can hopefully provide reliable news, and we try to do that. Now,
right.
I think
the content creation side of it, that still needs to happen. Someone still needs to create that content. Right. And deliver it, whatever method that is. So, yeah.
Exactly. And we're still delivering over 4,000 newspapers every week. And that's 4,000 homes. That's not 4,000 people. The average household in Calumet County is about 2.5 people. So that's, in our area it is. And that's about 10,000 plus people that we're delivering the news to every week. Given that we're serving 3 communities of about 3,500, that's pretty good penetration. And, that doesn't include our online readers. Our whole newspaper is available online. Right now it's available online for free. I would encourage anyone to check that out if they want. It's not going to be that way forever, but we've switched over our website recently, and that's why we're doing that. And it doesn't factor in what I call the pass-along factor. Mom or grandma gets the newspaper and their adult kids don't, but after mom's done reading it, they pass it on to the kids. We hear that all the time, and it doesn't help me sell subscriptions, but I'm glad people are reading the newspaper. And I know you get it at the library, and people come in and look at it there.
I would say that one of the hardest parts about closing our doors was that we have regulars who come in to read the newspaper. They come in, sit down with the newspaper, and when we closed our doors, we still offer all these services. And one of them is that you can come and sit outside and read our newspapers, because we see that as so important. And, when we're the only place people are getting some of that information, if they're not accessing it online, that's an essential service to keep. So yes, we do get it here. Thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you for doing that. And, I think it's always been true that not everyone gets the newspaper, but that's true of any media. I know there's 30% of Americans have never looked at Facebook, and of the 70% who have, about another quarter of those don't go on there very often. I'm one of those people. I'm just not I'm too busy with what I'm doing to deal with Facebook and Instagram and things like that. Sure. But our company is very technologically savvy, and we're way on the cutting edge of things like digital advertising. We have customers that we serve out of our office here all over the country because we sell things like search engine optimization and all kinds of digital advertising options that some of them you can't hardly imagine that go way beyond print. So we're really well positioned that if print does go away, so, and print advertising has fallen over the years, and then that's not good for us. But we've also made up for it in the digital end of things that we're doing. So people are really coming to us for that service.
That's great. That's exciting to hear all that stuff because that's certainly, I'll admit that sometimes I don't fully pay attention. And so I just didn't know all of that backstory.
You're
and then,
not alone. I think a lot of people are.
Busy. There's a lot going on. So I appreciate those answers. I want to ask some personal questions. I do this all the time. Like I said, I want to know your story. And so one of the things that I ask everyone is if you could sit down for a meal with anyone, past or present, who would it be and what would you be eating?
That's a good question. I think the obvious initial answer is Jesus. But
nobody said that yet.
Really? Well, I already dine with him a couple times a month, if you know what I mean. But I would like him there. But outside of him, I'm going to throw out a name, Jerome Horwitz. And before everybody goes to Google to figure out who Jerome Horwitz is, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't know his real name until earlier today. He's Curly from the Three Stooges. If you remember the Three Stooges, Curly was my favorite.
Okay.
And I think having lunch with that goofball, and I want Jesus there too, because I think Jesus was rolling on the floor laughing at Curly. And what would we eat? We would eat spaghetti with lots of sauce, because that's my favorite. But I would have Jesus there to take all the carbs out of the spaghetti, because I'm not supposed to have carbs. So,
are you doing keto or one of those?
Well, yeah, kind of, medical stuff and doctor's orders.
Yeah.
I've got a test next week, so that would be a heck of a lunch. So.
Yeah, I love that. Spaghetti is such a comfort food. I always say it's kind of hard to beat anybody's mom's spaghetti. So that's almost the problem. It's like you have to have mom's spaghetti specifically.
Yeah.
It reminds you of growing up, I think. I don't know. Spaghetti always takes me back.
Absolutely. You bet.
Yeah.
I agree.
Great. I love that. And then my final personal question is, what's your favorite book?
Well, again, I'm not just trying to score points with my pastor, but I would go with the Bible, number one. Mm-hmm. It is an amazing book because I've been teaching Sunday school to middle schoolers for a lot of years now. And every time I can go to the same story 10 times and find 10 different things I never knew before about it. Mm-hmm. And I also believe that the questions to every question in life is answered in the Bible. And there's just so much self-help stuff in there. So, but
that's a great answer, even if you're using it for your ticket to heaven. I mean, I'm teasing you. Yeah. No, it's because it is a book that scholars you can read over and over, and you spend your life in interpreting and using as guidance, and so and then there are stories as well. So that's a really, again, an answer nobody's come up with, but I love that. That's great.
And unfortunately, I don't get a lot of time to read because I'm so busy writing. I don't get time. Mm-hmm. The last book I finished cover to cover, I actually finished it on a cruise ship this past February in the Caribbean. And this is like 100 degrees opposite maybe of the Bible, but Fire in the Sky, an older book written by Travis Walton. And it's on a kind of a strange out there subject, but Travis believes he was abducted by aliens, and actually there were 4 other men with him who witnessed this, and then was returned a week later. So this is his book about what happened, and they made a movie about it with James Garner, and there were a couple other fairly well-known actors in the movie. And it's one of those goofy subjects that I kind of have an interest in, and really, I actually bought the book from Travis's website, and he signed it to me, and which was I got a kick out of that. That was pretty cool. So
that is so cool.
And I think I'm hoping if I ever retire, that reading will be something I pick up a lot more because I do really enjoy it.
Yes, yes. It is funny when you're on the writing side of it, or here at the library, I read so much for my professional role that I end up struggling to read for personal interest anymore. And it tends to be more nonfiction or, people's memoirs, things like that. I really love people's, own stories. So, yeah, that's cool.
I definitely lean towards nonfiction. Just about
Yeah.
any time I read a book, it's nonfiction, but
I'm with
that
you.
could
Yeah.
change in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mark, that's all I had for you. And I really appreciate your time and your answers. And this was great. It was great talking to you today.
Great.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Renee. This is Nina. Hi. We work at the Naholstein Public Library, and we started a day apart a couple years ago, and we found out that we have very similar taste in reading, and if not, we can guess each other's, like, where we'd like to go with our reading. So the series that we're talking about today is actually one that has become very popular. I read it a couple years ago. It's by Deborah Harkness, who is actually a history professor. And it starts out with a discovery of witches. And Nina, you want to tell everyone about it?
Well, I've stepped up out of my comfort zone in reading this because this is technically, it's sci-fi fantasy, which I usually stay with fiction and historical fiction a lot. But I really enjoyed this series. I like to tell people it's kind of like Harry Potter for adults. It's got the witches, it's got vampires, it's got demons, it's got
Humans.
humans in there. Are there werewolves? I don't remember if there was werewolves.
No, there's no werewolves.
Okay, so anyways, but yeah, so it's got all that kind of stuff in there, but it's not like very Twilight-ish. It's good. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, so I don't know do we want to talk about like the books themselves? I kind of just wrote like some little blurbs on like what book one is she doesn't know she's a witch. She discovers this manuscript and then finds out that she is a witch. She meets Matthew, the vampire guy, who is going to help her. Book two kind of walks into you're going to time travel and step into her just developing her witchy powers and things like that. And then book three, they return to present day to face their enemies. Which, I mean, it's good. I really enjoy the series a lot. They did make it into a show. You can watch it on Sundance, but you do have to pay for a subscription there. But season one is out. They are looking for season two to be expected sometime 2020, but I don't know because with everything going on, who knows? Yeah. But I think they wrapped up shooting in January of 2020, so maybe
early next year, coming, 2021. Yeah.
I did watch the first season. I got my subscription just for that.
And it is available now in the library system. You can rent the whole series. I think Manitowoc has it.
Wait,
the first
TV?
Yep.
Oh,
the first one. So
I did not know
what
that.
I really liked about it is the lightness or the fantasy of it, but also the history of it, because she ties a lot of actual history, like Diana Bishop, the main character, is referenced back to the first bishop witch that the United States had that was actually burned at the stake. But then they go over to Europe. So it's not, like you said, it's not Twilight-y at all. It's a very much an adult book. But you feel more cultured and I did anyway, sophisticated after reading it.
Yeah, because they touch upon gives you a touch of the history and the buildings.
You know what it reminded me of is Dan Brown when he wrote the one with the blanking here. the signs all over. He had to go to France.
Yes.
All of a sudden, as a student of history, you say, "Oh my gosh, that's how it got tied into." This too has references to things that we know as parts of history, but maybe just as a blip. But this brings you more as to how it ties into the culture. Yes. That it's just again, I felt more sophisticated when I was done.
Well, and plus, one thing that I really liked and that, touched with me being like a historical fiction fan is that we do time travel. So we do go back and, it brings you back into England and stuff when, I don't know.
Way back into the 1600s?
Yeah, I think so. And they were burning witches at that time. So they had to, worry about that as far as, that was in the book as well. So just really kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It did really bring you back to a lot of cool different little things to read. I just enjoyed it a lot.
Highly recommend the series.
Yes, me too.
I'm going down to the library, picking out a book, check it in, check it out. Gonna say hi to the dictionary, picking out a book, check it in, check it out. I'm going down to the library.